This is Nikhil Sharma. I'm delighted to be joined by Ollie as we break down Dana White Contender Series Week 9 for 2022. Ollie, how are you feeling about the card? Let's start from the top. It's for Leon Aliev versus Brunno Ferreira.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. To be fair, last week it was an epic card. To be fair, so this one should be even better. Both guys are coming into this one with 100% finishing rate. So if we're taking Gianni's advice, we'll probably go for a distance prop. But no, all the finishers come in the first round for both of them. Only Ali has went to decision once where he lost, so he hasn't been finished. However, I'm not feeling confident that one guy's just going to prevail in this one. Ali is coming off a convincing first round knockout in Cage Warriors. That's got him this shot. It was very impressive, right hand over James Webb. You know, both guys similar in size as well, and similar in striking ability. You know, both got similar power. You know, both like that right hand. Although I feel like there is some sort of skill disparity, and that is the ground game. Although Aliu's, he's shown to not be incapable on the ground. You know, he knows what he's doing. I just don't believe it's been properly tested yet, and especially against a guy in Ferreira. I think he's a judo black belt. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. You know, he's got very powerful takedowns. He likes to slam his opponent if he can. But well, this is unless this fight doesn't get to the ground, you know, because he can fall in love with his hands, and obviously with both guys having all round with first round finishes, you know, it could be over very quickly. However, despite that, I feel like Ferreira does have a better ground game, and he'll look to take him down even if he does struggle on the feet, and he's gonna gain that bit of confidence on the ground, show him different submissions, make him think, and I feel like it will create openings. However, I don't think it will be a first round finish. I feel like both guys will be wary. They'll know the opportunity, the occasion. However, I feel like Ferreira's faced just better competition. He's more well-rounded. Even though he'll fall in love with his hands, and I know he'll want that knockout, I can see him just getting that takedown off a clinch and getting a second round submission.
So you're favoring Ferreira for this one. I would like to bring up an interesting point that I found out. Is Leon, it's easier to call him Leon. Leon has more experience going the distance. Ferreira has not gone the distance yet. So if you're Leon, maybe you want him to just hold off for a bit. His power can translate into the later round too. He has gotten a knockout in the fourth round. He's even gone the distance. That's the only loss he had, which is by decision. I don't know if Ferreira still holds the power. We haven't seen him get tested like that. So that's the only thing that comes to my mind. Also, Ferreira, when you look at him, I feel like he looks like a much heavier person than the weight he's fighting. I'm like, wait, that's a middleweight? What? Because in the photos, he almost looks like a heavyweight. But yeah, I'd be very curious to see what game plan Leon comes in with. If I was to recommend something, it would be to just hold off for the first two rounds, wait till the later parts of the ring, because I don't know how Ferreira will stand up to that. Now, let's move on to the next fight on the card. Raul Rosas Jr. and Mando Gutierrez. What do you make of this one, Ollie?
Well, I know this fight has been getting a lot of attention, and for one reason, it's the fact that Rosas Jr. is 17 years old. Dana White and the UFC worked with the commission, I think, and you know they're not normally supposed to let 17-year-olds fight in the octagon, but I think they've made an exception. If he can pull this win off as well and impress Dana White, he'll be the youngest signee in UFC history. So he's got a bit of history. He's chasing on him by himself. Sorry, but I feel like he's going to be facing his toughest test yet. Although he's 5-0 and 17, you look at his record and actually he's not faced the best of competition, not the most experienced. However, he's coming against a guy, Gutierrez. He's very quite well-rounded. However, Rosas, he's only been a pro for a year as well. However, he does speak about he's been fighting all of his life with his dad. He was a fighter, and he says he's been a boxer. He's done a bit of wrestling. He's done a bit of everything. I think he trains with Brandon Moreno at times, something like that. However, I know a lot of people are wanting it to happen because he's 17 years old and he's got a lot of hype behind him and he's an exciting prospect. But I just feel like Gutierrez has faced that level of competition. I feel like he can deal with the on-ground pressure from Rosas. He likes to throw some omoplatters and rear naked chokes, and like when he's on his back, he can sort of turn over. He likes to create those scrambles, and I feel like more this fight goes on, the more level of experience plays into the fight. So even though I think Rosas will have success, Gutierrez I see grinding out a decision victory or a later on win because he's going to test this Rosas's cardio.
Yeah, that's a very fair analysis. What I like about Raul coming in, even though he's only 17 years old, is he feels like a proper sports person for MMA. He's grown up, he's gone through the ringer like we see other professional sports people do. Like he had a good amateur career, which he got some experience there before he turned into a pro. And now that he's a pro, he's getting his experience in the regional circuit, same as his opponent, Mando. So that's very nice to see that, okay, you see this growth in our sport, and that excites me more and more. But coming to the fight itself, I feel like maybe the UFC has got him a little bit too early, and maybe that's why they've chosen an opponent that won't necessarily knock him out. He does not, in my opinion, pose a knockout threat. I feel like this is going to be more so like the Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Levitt kind of fight, where both guys are going to look to grapple and probably submit each other. And it'll be interesting to see because, again, Mando has more experience in terms of going the distance. Raul is yet to even go 3 minutes in a single fight. So that's something that sticks out to me where I'm like, okay, let's see how he's going to do in the later part of the fight again. Is he going to come out firing? What if he gets a submission? Because that means he's the next hot prospect in the game. I'm really excited to see how that goes down. Now on to the next slide.
I just wanted to add quickly, Rosas, I forgot to mention, like, you look at his fights and he shoots takedowns early. He likes to use his preferred way of attacking his opponents, taking them to the ground, getting a quick submission. I've not seen his striking be tested at all. He does have a knockout finish on his record, but I still don't think it's been tested. I'd like Gutierrez to take his chance on the feet. I know you said he doesn't pose a knockout threat, and I agree, to be fair. However, I feel like he's got a bit of striking skills to worry Rosas and might lead him to go for a panic takedown. And Gutierrez, as I said, he's got some good submission threats himself. Could catch him in on the takedown in a guillotine. Who knows? But it's going to be an exciting one. As much as I'm rooting for the 17-year-old, even though he's coming in somewhat of a favourite. I don't know. Gutierrez just has a bit much for me to think that he's not going to beat a 17-year-old. I'm not going to get the hype. I'm not going to let the hype get to me that much.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Fair points on that. And it'll be very interesting to see. I do agree that a submission is the most likely outcome we'll see there, unless they're both hesitant. But we're going to find out on Tuesday. Let's move on to the next slide. Austen Lane versus Richard Jacobi. Who do you got in that one, Ollie?
I think it's quite an interesting one, to be fair. You've got Austen Lane looking to improve on his Contender Series visit in 2018, where he was knocked out by Greg Hardy in his pro debut. And, it wasn't pretty, was it? Took the knee, didn't even know where he was, and then caught another left hook. However, he's facing a guy, Jacobi, who's only been pro a year as well. And he has faced questionable opposition. Nonetheless, the Brazilian, he's beaten 5 of his 7 opponents in the first round by knockout. So you can't dispute his power. He's definitely got a right hand of steel. However, Austen Lane, he's came from this loss against Greg Hardy, and to be fair to him, he's worked all the way up. He's grinded this chance. He's generated that more experience. He's fought more competitive competition since then. I feel like, he's had all this back and forth with the NFL. He's had all this back and forth with his MMA career. He didn't have to continue doing this. He wants to. He loves this. And I don't think he would want to go in front of Dana White and get knocked out again and, become a meme again. He's here to make a statement. However, I feel like at 34 years old, he's going to have to do something to impress Dana White. As much as they're one in heavyweights, I feel like he'll want to see a statement from Lane. He doesn't want to see a boring decision because that's not going to get him the contract. So the route to victory for Jacobi, for Lane is, in my opinion, is to attack his front leg. He's got good use of front leg kicks, uses length. He's got a big size difference, and create opportunities to hit him with that knockout punch, or even just stun him and take him down, because he's definitely got a better ground game than Jacobi. But he just needs to watch out because Jacobi's that explosive type of fighter, but I feel like he's just too raw at the minute. He has holes in his game, and Lane, with his experience, will pick out those holes and get the victory tomorrow night. Oh, on Tuesday night, sorry. However, I feel like it will be by decision. I don't know if he will get the knockout because Jacobi's got a good tank on him.
Yeah, very interesting analysis from you there, because I feel like this fight will definitely be a knockout. And I'll explain why. Austen Lane coming into it, of course, he'll have a chip on his shoulder because he lost the last time he was at that big of a stage against Greg Hardy. If you look at Lane's last win, he didn't technically, yeah, he had a win, but it was a knee injury, So he still wouldn't feel, I guess people, when they win in that fashion, like Curtis Blades, they still have this incomplete feeling where it's like, okay, I still got to go ahead and make a statement, prove to everyone that I am the winner. And, with the Dana White Contender Series loss in the past, I feel like he's going to come with that. We've only seen, I don't think any of Lane's fight has gone the distance. Even his losses have come by knockout. So this guy is going to go out there and get into his crap. He's going to make it look ugly. He's going to want to brawl. And I think that's why Dana White wants him back. Because if Jacobi, who's 19 pounds heavier, let's not forget that, that's a big difference. So Jacobi, who's 19 pounds heavier, can possibly knock out Lane. Not only because of size, but perhaps Lane will give him the openings where he could get caught. Will Jacobi be able to do that? I don't know. But if I was Dana White, I'm pretty sure he's banking on that.
I can't wait, man. It's going to be good.
Yeah, a finish. That's what I see coming on that one. But let's move on to the next fight now. Nurullo Aliev versus Josh Wick. What do you think about this one?
Well, this is another fight where a fighter comes in on short notice. Josh Wick's coming in on a week's notice on this fight. He's taken on a young talent in Aliev. How do you pronounce that? Aliev? However, he's 22. Both fighters last competing nearly a year ago, so there might be some ring rust to compete there. However, Aliev will step into the octagon with an undefeated record. As Wick is looking to upset the party and make his way into the lightweight division. When researching this fight, I feel like a lot of people have Aliev winning this fight, and Josh Wick is just in his way. But the big question is it gonna be a performance to get him a contract? Because most of his wins have been by decision. Has he got that finishing power? And is he that Dana White contender fighter? Like we've seen historically, Dana White likes people who can finish a fight, who can make a statement, who has a bit of attitude about them. And I don't feel like a decision victory using his wrestling and making it drawn out, I don't think it's going to be enough for him. However, Josh Wick, he trains at Elevation. He trains with very experienced fighters, and I don't think he'd be taking this fight if he didn't feel like he had a chance. However, the massive skill discrepancy comes on the ground. Aliev has some great sambo, great wrestling. It will just be whether Wick can stay on his feet, pick his shots on the feet, and I just don't know. As much as I don't want Aliev to win, because I feel like it just will be a decision victory, I'm kind of rooting for Wick in this. He's come, as I said, week's notice. He's got creative striking. The wrestling is just going to be too big of a factor in this fight. And as much as I see Aliev winning, it's whether he wins an emphatic style. When he's on top, he'll need to, be active, shoot the ground and pound, make him move, jump on a rear naked choke. He can't just hold position all the time. He needs to make Wick not want to be there. He needs to tire him out to the point where he's on the feet. He's only thinking about that takedown. He needs to show Dana White that he's UFC ready, and that's by getting a finish and being dominant.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when you look at how they're how they think about pairing these guys up, it's interesting to see the mentality that goes into matchmaking it. when you look at Josh Wick, he's lost 5 bouts. All 5 of those losses are by decision, you know. And to put him against a guy who wins by decisions, it's not an accident. It's of course on purpose. If Josh Wick is a finishing artist, if he's someone who will be that Dana White Contender Series fighter, um, Dana White wants to make sure that he can put up against the best. It's not just a striking sport, right? It's mixed martial arts. So his striking, his finishing ability is only good if he can do it against wrestlers too. If he can do it against someone who is looking to grind out a decision win. And I feel like if Aliev, I'll pronounce a different one. So if Aliev is able to get do it in a dominant fashion like Khabib kind of used to do, where I'm not saying he's Khabib or anything like that, but what I'm trying to say is if he tries to just take Josh to the ground, and Josh has some submission abilities too, so he's still dangerous. It's not like he can just take him down and not have to worry about anything. But I feel like if Aliev can do it in convincing fashion, where he keeps him down and just lays on the ground and pound and doesn't let him get up, doesn't let him get into any attacking positions, he might be another prospect to look out for. One thing we know for sure, it's going to be an interesting fight. This one, yeah, I've got my own now.
For sure.
Let's talk about the final fight of the card. Roybert, Echeverria. If I messed up the pronunciation, my apologies. So Roybert, Echeverria versus Jafel, Cavalcante, Filho. What do you think about this one, Ollie?
Interesting one. Looking at both fighters, they're not the most active fighters. That's the thing that stood out for me. And also, both fighters have a history at fighting at 135. However, Echeverria last fought at flyweight in his last bout. However, Filho last made flyweight in 2016. I'm not saying that he can't make weight, but, you know, cutting that much weight and feeling that weight, it might be a totally new thing to him again, although he has done it. Do you know what I mean? On top of that, Filho hasn't been the most active fighter. Last 3 bouts happening within a 4-year stretch. You know, there's definitely some ring rust there. However, he still comes in this bout a favourite. A lot of fight fans believe he's going to win, and I probably think that's coming from the criticism of Echeverria's record and the questions about the level of competition he's faced. So I think Filho will be looking to get this fight to the ground. He'll look to gain a bit of confidence, get rid of that ring rust a little bit as soon as the bell rings. In addition, I feel like he's going to try and stay out of the way of the one advantage Echeverria has, and that's the stand-up. It's a hard one to call. Sorry.
Do you feel like Roybert would be better off just standing up and striking with Filho?
Yeah, I think so. Echeverria, it's his one advantage. You look at last week, Daniel Marcos versus Brandon Lewis. Marcos was coming off a fight that he hadn't fought in 2 years, and he absolutely dominated Brandon Lewis. Absolutely cut him off. He didn't want to be there, and it's one of those fights. Is this fighter going to come back better? Has he been training? Is that why he's been given the shot? I don't know. I feel like Echeverria, even though he's been the more active fighter out of the two, he needs a little bit of more of experience. I don't think he's got the ground game to keep up with Filho. Like 9 of his wins come by submission, and he's had 12 wins. The reason why I'm so hesitant in this one is there's so many variables, and with fighters not fighting for so long, you just don't know what to expect. They can turn out to be, you know, from a jiu-jitsu fighter to a boxer. You don't know. So hard one to call. I just feel like Filho, he has the experience, and I don't think he would have been given this shot unless they knew he could fight. And I see him winning by a drawn-out decision victory, or he's going to come out and submit the guy in the first 2 rounds. That's who I think Filho's got it.
Yeah, I feel like what you're to encapsulate your analysis, it's one fight you shouldn't bet on.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Because you don't know how it's gonna play out. With Filho coming back off a layoff, you also got to keep in mind that we just came out of a pandemic. Things were shut down. We don't know if he even had the opportunity to compete. It's not like he didn't want to. So it depends. Maybe it's a platform for him to revive his career and get back to winning ways, get back into competition. a win over Roybert would mean a lot for him, especially given the stage. Roybert, I feel like, yeah, he hasn't faced that level of competition. He's a very confident man. He's still undefeated. He goes into that battle knowing that. One thing that we've seen fighters who come off after a big layoff, the one thing that they all share is conditioning. They don't have the same conditioning they used to. There's always that. I have rarely ever seen a fighter who comes back after a big layoff and they can still have the stamina to compete longer. So that's one thing that I feel like might factor in, but it may not. Because Roybert might as well be like, you know what, my best chances with this guy is to catch him and knock him out. So I think if I was Roybert, that's the game plan I would be looking for. For Filho, yeah, just wrestle, take him to the ground, and get an Ollie submission win to make a statement. That's what I feel like would really get him a contract. Because that's what it all comes down to. You got to get a contract, eh?
Oh, for sure. You've got to make a statement in front of the boss. You know, there's been, especially in only the last couple of weeks, you see fighters making decision, like getting to a decision, absolutely dominating the fight, look really good, and they've still not got a contract. So a decision is a very 50-50. It's not a nice place to be for a fighter, especially if you're fighting first on the card, because you've got to wait for the other fights and then wait for Dana to make his decision. And you might be waiting all that time just to be told, no, we need more experience from you. And, you know, you've got to come in there with the best cardio of your life and be ready to go for 3 hard rounds and try and to kill that other guy inside the 15 minutes. And that is the big question. There's so many variables coming into this fight. But Echeverria, he's very powerful for a flyweight, got creative striking. But Fiallo, he's more experience, better on the ground, and I feel like he will get the job done.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one there too. I expect Filho to get an Ollie submission if he doesn't get caught. So that's the big question for me. But I look forward to this card, Ollie, and it was great chatting about it with you.
As always, pal. I can't wait for next time.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKickMMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.